Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, mellow gaffers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. Today's episode, I'm going to talk about going to the grocery store. Now, while I was fully engulfed in my eating disorder, going to the grocery store was amazing. It was such a high. I would buy everything and bring it home. I wasn't going to eat it, but I was buying everything. And then when I started recovery, it all went to hell. So I remember when I was fully engulfed in my eating disorder, I would run through the grocery store buying this, buying that. And if I did decide to get something, I knew it wasn't sticking around. So I had my certain foods that I had all the time. And then once in a while, like, I'd think, "Oh, I want cake." Well, if I get the cake, then I need to get this to make sure it doesn't stick around. So the food was like, I don't know, like a weird thing, because but it was almost like having a golden ticket because I know it wasn't sticking around. So when I started recovery, going through the grocery store, I had so many panic attacks and crying fits in a grocery store. Like, it's embarrassing. But and it was really, really bad in the beginning. When I go to pick out foods, I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, they're tainted. I didn't want to have anything that I used to use food for other things, right? So the list is few and far between on what I could have where it wouldn't like flip me out, because I'd look at something and be like, nope, nope. Like, I know what I did with that. So when this one particular day, I went with my son, who was 16 at the time, and I thought, I really want salmon. And I swear to God, when I was fully engulfed in my eating disorder, I would have salmon and it would stick around. And I swear to God, that saved my life, and Kraft peanut butter. So I thought, okay, and salmon's good for your heart and it's good for your brain. It's so great for you, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get salmon. So I'm standing in my grocery store. I'm looking at all the salmon, all the fresh salmon, and I pick up this package. I look at it, I put it back down. I pick it up, I look at it, I put it back down. I swear to God, I stood there for 20 minutes, picking this up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down. And finally, this really nice guy from behind the counter comes out and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want salmon. And he's like, oh, well, this salmon is from Vancouver Island. We get 98% of it. It's amazing. And like his mom's name was like Elmo. I don't know. Right. Like he knew everything about this salmon. He knew its grandparents. He knew everything about him. Like it was crazy. But as he's talking and he's being so nice, my soul is leaving my body. I can feel my back start to sweat. I can feel my mouth start to water. I- I'm starting like my forehead sweating. I'm like, uh-oh. And now I'm taking off my jacket. It's January in Canada. It's freezing here. And I'm thinking I'm in Bermuda right now. So I'm trying to undo my jacket and I'm like, yeah. And I'm getting this ringing in my ear. I always have ringing in my ear, but now I really can't hear anything. And it's almost like a movie, you know? Like when they show you when someone like passes and they're looking at their body. That's how I felt. I'm like, I'm not even here right now, checking out. And I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And I'm trying to breathe and I can't get a breath and it feels like someone's putting their hands around my throat like they're choking me. And now I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm dying." And I'm going to start to cry. And I'm like, "Heather, don't. Don't." And it's too late. One tear, two tears. All of a sudden, I'm bawling. I'm crying now because I'm crying. I'm so freaking embarrassed, right? This guy's looking at me and I'm getting really, really dizzy. And I grab for my son's arm and I collapse right there. That's it. And I fall onto my son. My son, God bless him. He is 6'4", but he's a pinner. He doesn't weigh anything. And this kid scoops me up like an officer and a gentleman. So he's holding me up, but the poor kid in his spaghetti noodle arms dropped me. So now I'm laying on the floor. And I'm like, okay, Heather, get up. Okay, Heather, get up. But my legs are weak. I'm like Bambi on ice. I keep trying to push myself up with my arm and I collapse. And I keep trying to push myself up and I collapse. And I'm like, get it together. And I'm like, come on, Heather. And my son's like, mommy, get up, mommy. And he's trying to heave me up. And the guy from the store, he's like, oh my God. And it just so happens I know someone who works at this store. Of course I do. I know everybody. Lucky me. So she comes running over to me, and I know her from my kid's school. And like we weren't friends, but we know of each other, right? And she's like, Heather, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, I'm having a panic attack. She's like, I'm going to phone 911. I'm like, no, don't. I said, I'm just having a panic attack. I'm going to be okay. I just need to get up. And she's like, okay, let me phone your husband. I'm like, no. Don't phone him. That's the last thing I want is him like finding out I collapsed in the grocery store. That's going to go over like a lead balloon. So I'm like, no, I'm okay. And my son's like, come on, mommy, come on. And I'm like, okay. So I get up finally. And she's like, no, I think we have to phone 911. And all I'm thinking in my head is, if I go to that hospital, they're going to put me back in that room and they're not going to let me out because I'm doing recovery on my own, on my terms. And I hated the hospital the first time. I have so much PTSD from that. It's not even funny. They're really not going to let me out this time. Forget it. No. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm okay. So I finally get enough strength to get up. And my son's like, Mommy, you have to go to the hospital. Let me phone dad. Like his dad, my ex-husband. I'm like, no, don't do that either. Oh my God. Your dad's going to have a freak attack. I spent so much. I don't even want to know how much money it cost me in court to get divorced. He's going to take me back there. He's going to know that I'm nuts. Forget it. I don't need him in my life. No, no, no. Freaking now I'm thinking everything bad's happening, right? Like Child Protective Services is going to come take my kids. And oh my God, no, no, not at all. So now I'm really, really worked up. I'm like, no, let's just get to the car. We got to get to the car. So I make it outside the store. I get into the car and my son is like, Mom, let me phone my husband, his stepdad. You got to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, no. I said, I just got to sit here for a minute, buddy. He's crying. And he's like, no, I'm like, no, it's okay. We just got to sit here. I will get us home. Thank God the grocery store is like 2 seconds from my house. I'm like, I can make it. And I said, I'm just going to go home and then I'm going to go lay down. I'm like, okay. So we sat there for a couple of minutes so I could compose myself, compose him. And I'm like, do you want me to take you to Tim Hortons for a donut? Oh my God. Like, I'm just trying to make things better now, right? I'm like, no, it's okay. It's okay. So he's like, no, no, let's just go home. I'm like, okay. So I get us home. I get into bed. And I'm thinking, holy crap. How am I supposed to recover if I can't even go to the grocery store? Like, my medicine is my kryptonite. It's messed up. I need this to live. Everyone needs food to live. It's a thing. But I'm having a panic attack in the grocery store. I can't even fathom the thought of buying something, bringing it home, cooking, eating it, keeping it in without my body going into like SOS mode. I'm like, what the fuck? What am I going to do now?
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.